Alright, folks, we are live. We are live. Hopefully, we are live, and hopefully, I think we've found a little workaround for the camera issue. So hopefully this won't be an issue. I'm just going to share from the computer that the camera was plugged into and that I've been streaming from. So I'm just going to share everything directly from that computer and or from that monitor, I should say. And but nonetheless, we are live here. We are back in full force, and we have a lot to cover, as I mentioned, for those of you who tuned in to the previous stream, which unfortunately wasn't too much of a success, but in terms of getting the camera to work. But nonetheless, I saw that we actually got a new subscriber, so thank you, whoever did that, and please be sure to check back on a regular basis, of course, if you are subscribed. And definitely, any more of you who aren't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that sub button and ring the bell, of course, so you get all notifications. And again, if you have any more than just a little hunch that you want to support the channel and you really want to, throw your money behind it, you can go shopping with the links down in the description of the video. Of course, there are Independence Day sales going on, especially for My Patriot Supply, so you can get stocked up on emergency food kits and things like that at a discounted rate now. So definitely you may want to take advantage of that as we continue to deal with more and more natural disasters in the country. Fortunately, things have quieted down for the time being, but that is likely a change, and you're going to see why here in just a little bit. So definitely, shameless plug there. Help yourself out, get you some emergency supplies, and also support the channel while you're at it. Go ahead and kill two birds with one stone. So it looks like everything's getting word that it's working. That's good. How is the audio, by the way? Is the mic working well? How's the audio doing? Just let me know in chat. I'll be monitoring chat. So here's what we've got going on. We've got Tropical Depression 2 in the Bay of Campeche, way down there towards southern Mexico. And you look at it on the infrared satellite image, and you really, can you spot the depression? Not really, and that's something that has been a finding even by the hurricane hunters. They're no longer even seeing a closed circulation. So here's the latest from the National Hurricane Center. They do still expect it to just barely become a tropical storm, a named storm, which would be our second named storm of the season so far in the Atlantic Basin. But I honestly, I think this is an overestimate. I really do. I think it's honestly more likely the thing falls apart before it even strikes Mexico, rather than it actually becoming a named storm. And I really don't think it has much of a lifespan after this, as it seems to already be falling apart from. It seems like it's already hit its peak, so to speak, and at a 30-mile-per-hour tropical depression, and it's already starting to fizzle out. You don't even see much convection. We will see some rain showers and things, some elevated flood risk, but really even that, not so much of an issue, because the thing is just so disorganized and there's really not a whole lot of convection. In fact, most of the convection is down here in the southern part of Mexico, as well as parts of Central America, where it's not even convection associated with the storm itself. Rather, it's just the extra influx of moisture colliding with the intertropical convergence zone down there near the equator. So that's really all that is. That's where you see all these blow-ups of thunderstorms, and a very lackluster comparison to that, where the storm actually is over the southern Gulf. So That's just something we will see enhanced rainfall, especially in some of the hot spots like Mexico City and many of the other relatively larger cities and towns along the coastline there, along the eastern coastline of Mexico. But and there is again there is a tropical storm warning up in blue for the four parts of the coastline. I really think that's overdone. I don't think we see a tropical storm out of this. I think Tropical Depression 2 really has hit its peak intensity and is now, as you can see on the satellite, it's fallen apart. It's not a closed storm anymore. It's too close to land, and it's just getting ripped apart. Now, with all that being said, I do want to briefly go over the flood risk and sort of put some numbers behind it. You do see some areas, and I think this could even be overdone just a little bit too. You do see some areas in that 6 to 8 category in terms of 6 to 8 inches through here. Isolated areas up to 10 inches, especially if you happen to get some orographic lifting on the mountains in places, as well as and of course the mountains themselves can lead to, in addition to forcing the air upward and creating more thunderstorms, you can see just water naturally drains downhill easier than a more flat area like that. And so you could see some mudslides and some problems there. But nonetheless, I don't think we're going to see too many problems. Nothing that is not normal with that sweep of the ITCZ. Excuse me, I can't speak tonight. But with all that being said, so that's pretty much the wrap on Tropical Depression 2. Really not a major story here. Some enhanced rainfall over parts of Mexico, and that's about it. Now, I want to go over to the Eastern Pacific because we do have a little bit more of an interesting story for our folks south of the border here. You know, since we do have some international viewers, some of you are from Mexico, and so I do want to cover this just briefly. You do have this Invest. It's Invest 95E. E just, of course, stands for Eastern Pacific. That's where it is, and it does have a 90% chance of development over the next 7 days and 80% just within the next 2 days. So you see it tracking off to the northwest or west northwest, but some of the longer range models do actually put it relatively close to Cabo San Lucas and potentially as a very destructive storm. Not to mention, reminder about a certain O name that unfortunately came about a decade ago. It's crazy to think it's been that long, but yeah, a certain O name that some of you folks down here might be a little familiar with could see a similar situation in the long run. So just keep that in mind. Of course, things can change. You don't have to necessarily cancel your travel plans yet if you're headed that way on vacation, or if you of course reside in those areas. You don't have to necessarily pack up everything but the kitchen sink and head out just yet. But just know that there is a chance that we could see a very destructive storm very close to the southern tip of Baja California. And so that's pretty much the wrap on the tropics, at least with the areas that the National Hurricane Center has so far identified. Now, I want to take a look at our weather outlook just for the continental United States. We are starting to see the 0Z run come in for the GFS, but we've only got the first 2 frames, so we're gonna go back to the 18Z just to get a quick idea of just generally what's going on across the country. So here's what we've got. You've got widespread showers, scattered showers across parts of the Appalachia and the Mid-South, as well as even parts of the Ohio River Valley and the Ozarks. And of course, you do see some stronger stuff occurring towards the northern tier of the country as these systems move through Canada, as the jet stream has retreated that far north. Things not very baroclinic right now as we enter into the peak of summer here. So these systems have, of course, retreated north with the jet stream. But as we go forward in time, you actually do see somewhat of a system actually get rolling. I'll go ahead and go back one frame. As we close out the month and start another here, looking at this is actually about midnight Central Time, or excuse me, be 1 a.m. Central Time on July 1st. That would be Tuesday. You do start to see some active weather across parts of the Ozarks and even stretching back into the southern plains as well. And you do see some activity out of this, so I would be a little bit concerned based on some of those, especially some of these sort of convective parameterization hotspots. You could see some severe weather pop out of that, but so just keep an eye on that, of course, as we go forward in time. Now, as this system begins to push off towards the East Coast, you do actually see a little feature, and you see this little trough sort of get kicked out. You see it digging out of the main system, and it actually winds up down in the eastern Gulf of America, just off the coast of Florida, off the west coast. And you do see, at least according to the GFS, as we go forward in time, it actually starts to form into a little spinny thing down here. I think y'all can figure out what that is. This would be, this is 0Z on Sunday, June 6th. This is really Saturday night for most of the country, because remember, Zulu time is based on Greenwich, England. So we're about 5 hours behind that here in our time zone here in Mobile. Central time zone, 5 hours. If you are on the East Coast, it goes back 4 hours. If you're in the mountains, it's 6 hours, and if you're on the West Coast, it's 7 hours. And it's of course it changes with the time zones. So all that aside, this is what could potentially occur, and this isn't something that's at the tail end of the model run either, where this could just be a large error. No, this is something that feasibly could happen. Okay, it's not anything. Again, don't cancel your travel plans yet, but just be on the lookout that something could form in the Gulf. And we could have our first. I think this is probably when we actually get our first named storm, if we're going to get our first named storm in the Gulf of America. I think this is probably what it's going to be. And you see it actually form off the coast of Florida. It tracks northwestward, and it actually strengthens quite a bit. And you actually see it getting all the way down, according to the GFS model run, which again, this is about a week in advance. Okay, we're talking about Monday, July 7th, so not this upcoming Monday, but the following Monday, just to give you perspective as to how far out that is. And the models don't necessarily do the best job that far out. But it does give us a little bit of general idea as to what's going on. But you actually see the GFS producing a very rapidly intensified storm, so to speak, down there at about 974 millibars, and then it tracks it inland, of course, over New Orleans. Now, with that being said, this is likely to change. As we get the latest model run, if it comes in time, we'll try to take a look at, see if we have any further updates. Odds are it's not going to track exactly from Tampa to New Orleans. It may be a very significant deviation from that. So just take this with a grain of salt. Really, the only thing you ought to really take from this at this far out is there is a somewhat of a chance that we could get a hurricane or some tropical feature to make landfall somewhere on the northern Gulf Coast, and that's really all it needs to be said about that this far out. Of course, as we get closer and things start to develop and form, then we'll start to talk more about impacts to specific areas. So if you don't have to necessarily cancel that trip to that 4th of July trip to New Orleans or whatever. That's a little unnecessary. That'd be a little bit of an overreaction for really the low chance that that actually occurs. So, of course, this is, like I said, this is just one model run of one model, and we're talking about over a week in advance. I want to also look at the euro just to show you that we do have something similar occur where you see, if I rewind to the beginning, um, we do see, okay, we do see some activity start to fire over parts of the Ozarks as well as the Midwest. And that's of course associated with this 1005 low up here in central Canada. And as it pushes off to the east, we start to see more and more convection firing as we go through the early part of next week over the Ozarks and even starting to spread into the Ohio River Valley. We also see some convection firing across parts of the Florida Panhandle, and some enhanced convection is what the Euro model is picking up on there. So just be on the lookout for that. Perhaps a little more of a wet, unsettled pattern along the Gulf Coast than what normally occurs. With that being said, so you start to see the system push off to the east, and you also kind of see some similar features here. Okay, you start to see some moisture developing in the eastern Gulf, or excuse me, the northeastern Gulf to be specific, and that could be indicative of what's to come somewhat. Not, and of course, the Euro is famous for really kind of being somewhat of a deadbeat model in terms of early forecasting of these tropical systems. You almost have to have a Category 5 hurricane sometimes before the Euro actually picks it up. Not really, but I think you all get the point. It's usually a little bit slower in terms of actually picking up on things like that than the GFS. But it is a good second opinion nonetheless. And you actually see, as we go back, you actually see down here, you can actually see that system in the Eastern Pacific, just how close it comes to Baja California in the long run. And of course, this is a good, let's see, this is 117 hours in advance. So yeah, we're talking about 5 days out. So I would also take this with somewhat of a grain of salt too. But again, folks there in southern Baja California, Cabo San Lucas area, definitely want to keep an eye on things. That's for sure. But with all that being said, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover tonight. This isn't going to be a really long, drawn-out stream, but I did want to cover some things. I wanted to mention some things about what's going on. There's a lot of hype around, there's a system out in the Gulf, and where's it going to go? What's it going to do? Everybody's getting news articles popping up, and there's a lot of misinformation going around as usual. So I wanted to kind of clear the air on that, and hopefully I did that, and maybe put some of your minds at ease for those of you who are like me and you live on the northern Gulf Coast, and maybe were a little bit concerned about potential for a landfalling storm. So hopefully that sort of puts some of those fears at ease. But of course, we do have that system next week that could potentially develop. We may need to watch that. So if you have any remaining questions, feel free to send them in chat, and I will try to address them. It sounds like the mic was a success. Sounds like getting good audio quality. That's good to hear, especially since I didn't have a chance to really test it before actually using it. So I'm glad it's working okay, and I'm certainly happy with it as well. All that being said, I think we're going to call it here for tonight. Be sure to like the stream down below if you have not done so. If you're new, or you just have been coming to the channel for a while but maybe haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe, ring the bell, share the stream, and of course, with all that being said, feel free to support me using the links in the description, and also follow my professional Facebook page, James's Weather Forecast. The link is also in the description of the stream, and that's where you can get sort of more real-time weather updates. Every once in a while I'll do a stream But the Facebook page is really where the meat and potatoes of live updates and just different things I don't necessarily have time to stream about or make a video about, but just quick little posts can be made sharing some weather updates. So just make sure you follow that if you are on Facebook. With all that being said, everyone have a good night and be safe out there.